One. I'm Nora Baldner at Quincy University, talking with Jeff Dorsey specifically about a regional baseball game in the spring of 2023. Hopefully people will be watching this segment for years to come. I want to talk specifically about how did you prepare for that game? What did you do to know what you needed to do to call the game? What was the experience like? All of that good stuff. So how did you start preparing for the regional baseball game?
Okay, well, the first thing I did when I was asked to do the game was to figure, well, who's playing it, go to their website, check out, I had gone to many Hawks games this year, so I was familiar with QU, which was a benefit. But if you were somebody who was called in from Des Moines to come down and do the games, for instance, you need to get on the websites, check out the teams, find out who their best players are. What are some of their strong points? Is it pitching? Is it hitting? Defense? Whatever it might be. And you can tell that from the statistics, basically. Talk to the coach if you can. Sometimes they're accessible, sometimes they're not. They're not always consistent either. So I found that out a long time ago. So you're best to talk to the sports information directors of those institutions. In this case, Indianapolis. Talk to that gentleman, whose name escapes me right now, but he gave me a lot of information, how to pronounce names of players. Most of the times on the website, they'll have the pronunciation guides for difficult names to pronounce, which is great.
When did you start this work? Like the minute you got the call, or a week before, or a day before?
I did it the day I got the call.
Okay.
Because it's been a while since I've done play-by-play for baseball, and I thought, well, I got to get going on this because I want to be ready. Right. So we did that, and we had 2 games to prepare for, too, because they played 2 games that day. 1 game the first game, 2 games the next day. Long story short is you go talk to these people, you get the stats, you find out what the records are, you find out, you always in baseball have to have more information than you will ever need. I've got everything on my little player charts here I'm looking at right now. There's more stuff on this player chart. Probably 50% of it I used.
And I've seen many flip charts, player charts, scorecard, whatever they're called, and everyone is different. You create this as to how you want to ingest the information.
Exactly.
This is your design.
This is for me only.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can look on my player chart. I take the statistics, and I get the batting lineups, first of all. Now, they're going to change from minute before a game sometimes. So this is why I do a mine and pencil. This is old school, remember, okay? There's a million ways better now to do this. But that's how I learned how to do it.
I don't know if better, just different,
well,
right?
It's different.
Just different.
Yeah, we'll call it different. But there are other ways to do it that I'm not familiar with, I can get in depth about. But the way I do it, I would put down the batting order, and I would look and see what their averages are. I put the lineups in the outfield defensively. We'll take the Hawks, for instance.
Now, why are you flipping that over? What's the difference between one side and the other?
Well, Indianapolis was the visiting team, for instance. So I got the batting order here, and then I got the player field chart here. So the Hawks are in the outfield. I also noticed I color coded too. I got the Hawks colors, and I got Indianapolis. My mind goes that way. I could see red, and I can see red. That's more pink, but I could see yellow, and I can see Hawks. It's just the way it goes. So Indianapolis leads off, so they're batting first. Hawks are in the field. After 3 outs are made, it's the other way around. Now I got the Hawks, and they're in the field. So when the ball is hit to the center fielder, I don't know the center fielder. I mean, I remember writing his name down there, but I don't memorize that stuff. Some guys are good at that. I don't want to clog my mind up with that. I have it right in front of me. So there's a fly ball to center field. I'm watching the ball and I look down, and Brandon DeWitt is underneath it. Oh, he dropped it, okay, which I don't think Brandon ever did. Actually, he did one time because I have a circle under his name with 1. That's how many errors he's made all year. So now I can say that's the second error that Brandon, without looking at my stat sheet.
So you're keeping stats on your flip chart?
I have written down, I have a stat sheet on both sides of my flip chart. One for one team, one for the other. Okay. And if I need to go to in-depth stats, I've got them right there. But these are basic stats. Ground ball hit to the third baseman, makes an error. That's his 21st error of the year, which is a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I can do right away. I don't. In football, the same thing. A kid intercepts a pass. That's his 3rd interception because I have a 2 written on it. Now I know it's 3. So I don't have to go searching for that. It just flows easier.
And again, it's your codes. It's how you know where it is and what's going on.
Everybody should do it their own way.
Everyone should do it their own
There
way.
is no one way to do this. It may be easier with the computers that are set up in front of guys now, and StatCast is right there to give you all the information you need, but you still got to punch in what you need to find on StatCast. Not everything is on that one thing. So, this way I've got almost everything I think I'm going to need in the game. I mean, I know Quincy's overall record, their conference record, their home record, their away record, their streaks. They won, at that point, they won like 17 in a row, whatever it was. I know the coach's name. I know they beat this team by that score. Last year they beat them. And everything I want to have is right here in front of me.
So all these stats tell the story.
Yep.
This is so that you can tell the story of the game.
Exactly.
Right? You mentioned how the matchup when these two teams met before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the anticipation and the description of this, Titans coming together and playing this game, right? You make this kind of exaggerated storyline.
It's a build up to the game start.
There you go.
But I'll refer to that. I'll refer to that throughout the game as well.
Okay.
I mean, I'll start off and say, welcome everybody. Quincy University with a record of 47-10 coming to the game today against Indianapolis. They're 38-19, and 16th overall appearance in the tournament for Indianapolis and 11th overall appearance for QU. This is all here. Now, as the game goes along, and it starts to bog down, for lack of a better term, there's a lag time, and maybe they're making a pitching change or something. I can sit there and say, well, here's the new pitcher, blah, 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 blah. Seth Spencer started, and going to so-and-so. E.J. White is replacing him. Then I can look at E.J. White's stats. I got that. And if they're still warming up after I'm done with that, I can go back to some of this stuff. That this is the 11th overall appearance for the Hawks, trying to make it 12. Things to fill in with.
Okay.
And the color announcer has the same duties and should have that information as well.
And also letting the game breathe so that you can maybe hear some natural
Crowd noise.
ambient sound of the crowd, or
Yeah.
and then sometimes they'll do, I don't know if they, probably not during regionals, but taking a GEMS game, they'll have games out in the field, and that's when you can kind of take a break and let that happen.
And usually that's between innings.
Like kid games is what I meant.
Yeah, between innings. So you're in commercial break or something like that.
Okay.
But not always, And you can talk about the kids' games too. I mean, if you're back early and they're still doing that, hey, it's happening. You're describing what's going on.
Especially if they're winning money. Like if you can shoot, from the other baseline or whatever, and you get to shoot money and make
why
basket,
not?
I don't know.
And the game is not the only thing you're there to broadcast. You're broadcasting the event, which includes people. You see people, there's a sea of, black and gold over here, brown and gold over here. And it's the Hawks fans, and there's red and white over here, and it's Indianapolis. You describe the umpires, if you get, you should get their names as well because they're a part of the game. And they worked hard to get to that point. And I got the umpires' names right here. So you mentioned their names because they deserve that. You can't play this game without an umpire, And if you know who the groundskeeper is, give them credit. There's so much you can talk about, not only in baseball, but in football, basketball too. I mean, you talk about the scorers table. My good friend Dick Ventura has been doing the scorers table at QU here for almost 50 years.
That's a story.
Yeah, and he should be mentioned.
So this is all on paper. I'm just going to describe. You've got this actually taped to kind of maybe a notebook.
So it's a full flip chart thing.
Kind of thing, yeah. So are you comfortable with the technology? You mentioned that Will Connerly, who's another a QU alum now, who has also broadcast mini games, he'll have a bunch of screens up. What do you think about the changes of technology that you've seen?
I think it's great. It took me 5 hours to do this. Okay, with the research, I'd read about the kid, the leadoff batter in the last 3 games and see what he did. And I got his last game, he was 1 for 4. It's all prep work. So that I wouldn't need to do with the screen, but you still got to call it up. Okay, so I think it's and it's updated constantly if you got a person who's doing that. Not all the time do you have that, but if that's going to work. And it works well for you, that's fine. And I imagine I would have entered into that field that way eventually too. I just got away from this before all that started coming into play for people. So I think it's great that they have that. I mean, Will can look right there and see what the guy's batting average is. All I can tell you that Gino D'Alessio came into the game batting 400, okay, into that game. Now, what he got a base hit in this game, so did it go, is he 404? I don't know. I have to do the work on that. So that's one of the fallacies of this. That computer would tell me he's now batting 402 or something.
Sure.
Stuff like that. So that's the good part about it.
So the teamwork, it's a nice combination
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
having something in front of you that you've prepared because you're going to be so familiar with where and what you need quickly, and then also have a plethora of information that you
Yeah.
can draw upon.
And I keep score myself.
Yeah, you've got,
And,
Yeah, you
that
get-
computer will keep score for you too.
yeah.
And that's a good thing. But again, this is how I grew up doing it. This is what I'm familiar with. And I go back to my comments from previous conversations was, you got to be yourself. And if you're going to broadcast a game and you're familiar, this is making me comfortable. I feel good about getting into that broadcast booth before I set up. I got everything I need. It's such a relaxed atmosphere for a play-by-play guy knowing I'm ready. If you go in there and you don't have the information, you don't have starting lineups, you don't know who's playing center field, you don't know why that guy is injured, why isn't he playing, and everybody's asking the question, how come he's not in the lineup? You gotta, well, here's why. You don't have that information, it can wear on you.
You're like a tightrope without a net.
Yeah, because you're juggling the play-by-play with information you need.
Right.
It's right there.
So the game is really like an iceberg.
Yeah.
The game is just what we see above the
Tip of it.
surface,
Yeah.
and
The rest of
the
it,
research is all.
the prep work is, it can be as much as you want it to be.
Okay.
I could have gone 7 hours preparing for a game. I felt good about what I had. I'm sure there were things I could have added to it, but as far as the NCAA tournament games, sometimes we were preparing for a second game, and so I couldn't get too much into one. I had to be ready for the second one. The other thing about that, the turnaround time between games is 30 minutes. So I can't start prepping for a second game from the start. I got 30 minutes.
Right.
So I had to have these sheets for the second game ready, and if there were lineup changes, then I quickly would change them. But for the most part, the lineup stayed the same. So, that part is another thing. If you get behind doing play-by-play, like I said, you're juggling two things. You're juggling describing the game with knowing enough information to describe it with. So you want to make sure you've got all your information, that you feel good. There was maybe a couple of times I went to a broadcast where I was not comfortable because I couldn't get the information out of the visiting team, and I made it work, but I didn't feel good about that. I felt I was missing something, and that weighed on me while I was doing the game because I wanted to tell people this is what happened, why it happened, but I didn't have the information, so I had to stay away from that.
Yeah. And your audience might not have known
No, they
a
wouldn't
huge
know.
difference,
But I
but
did.
you did. Yeah.
Walking into a broadcast booth and knowing you're ready, you can't describe that feeling. I can't. It's just like, I've done everything. It's like taking a final exam. You have studied as much as you could possibly study. I'm ready to take this test. And that feeling is good compared to going in and saying, well, I should have studied more.
Yeah.
And I think your audience probably can relate to that.
Exactly.
Because I remember relating to that too. But I just am one who is overly prepared for a lot of things.
Okay.
I mean, you sent me a few questions you might ask me, and I came back with a Bible here of all the answers. So.
Right. Right.
But that's the way I am. But I think that you can never be over-prepared.
Okay.
But if you're under-prepared, it'll show.
And that was a fun series,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, I know
It
the
really
end
was.
result wasn't what QU wanted, but
No,
was a fun
it
series.
really wasn't. But that team had the potential to win it all this year, and they know it. And but they have to remember that they played extremely well all year long, against some really tough competition too. So, hats off to them. And
And GLVC champs.
yeah,
So there's
yeah,
that.
and regional champs too.
Regional, right.
They just didn't get out of the super regional.
Yeah.
But, it's baseball, it's sports. Anybody can beat anybody at any time. They ran into two hot pitchers in that game, and that ended the season for them. But, it doesn't diminish what they did. So, and it's like, they're preparing to play the game. They know they have to look at the pitchers, and they have to see what their kind of pitches they throw, and, what kind of guys they're out there, and what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are for every game. It's the same with broadcasting.
Okay.
It's all tied together.
Jeff, thank you so much.
Glad
Your
to be here.
insight is valuable. Your experience is amazing.
Well,
You've had an
I
amazing
appreciate that.
career. Yeah.
Someday I'll come back and tell you about all my broadcast locations I've had to broadcast from.
I will take you up on that. Thanks so much, Jeff. And that is learning how to call a game at QU.